We are live on the chat with Tyler, who is a full time student and a part time Lyft driver. And Tyler recently had a terrifying experience with some COVID deniers who requested a Lyft. And I saw his story on his Instagram, and I wanted him to come on the chat to tell us a little bit more about it. Hi, Tyler. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Robert?
Good. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes,
So,
of course.
tell us about your experience.
Yeah, so this happened just a few days ago on Friday. It's about 7 o'clock at night, and I picked up three guys in North Scottsdale. And when I pulled up, they didn't have masks on. They had beers in their hand, which both things go against Lyft's policies.
Hmm.
Lyft's policy is that riders and drivers are supposed to wear face coverings throughout the ride, and alcohol beverages are not allowed by either, obviously, the driver or the passenger. So I let these three men know, hey, can you please put face masks on for the ride? And this is something, I've gotten used to telling people for the past year, right? So, I always say it really nice. Hey, do you mind putting on a face mask? They immediately came back at me with that they're here on vacation, that they don't want to wear masks because they came from a state that's still closed down. We're here in Arizona. I'm here in Arizona, which we're pretty much fully open now. And they let me know that they came here to not wear masks and
So,
that
where
they were
what state were they coming from?
California.
California. So they came from California to Arizona with the impression that coming into Arizona, they didn't have to wear a mask anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So they were obviously upset that I'm here telling them that they have to wear masks. So they got in, they put on the mask, they got rid of the alcohol. I started
Mhm.
driving, and immediately, I would say within 2 minutes of the drive, it was about a 15-minute ride to Old Town Scottsdale. They were going to a nightclub, and right away they went into, talking about how COVID is a liberal hoax. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, that they think a lot of this is ridiculous. They don't believe it. And, over the last year, I've heard this over and over from writers. And so I just kind of let it go. Just
How
don't say
often?
anything.
How common is it? You said it's very common for people to tell you that COVID is a hoax and that they don't want to wear a mask because they don't think it's real. Or
Yeah, it
what
is. It's
percent?
actually, I would say probably maybe 4 out of 10 people or four out
For
of
the
10 rides. And I
right.
think it has to do with the state, right? Arizona is more of a conservative state,
Yeah.
and so there's that mindset, right? That masks don't work, that it's a hoax, and the whole spiel, right?
Right.
So, um, so I've gotten used to that sort of per se, right? And so I just try to, I don't want to engage in it,
Right.
because I've learned that if I engage in it, things just get worse. The
Right.
situation intensifies, and so the best thing is to just keep to myself and get them to where they need to go safely, and get them out of my van. Um,
Right.
so these
So.
guys, they were talking about the hoax, all of that we just mentioned, and then they brought up uh, Caitlyn Jenner. And yeah, that came up, and that she's running for governor, and they had
Mhm.
some disrespectful things to say about her and trans people, and that was really unfortunate to hear. But again, I just
Can you
kept out of the conversation.
can you give us more detail about what they said about Caitlyn Jenner?
uh
What kind of
they
transphobic comments they made?
they it's how would I put it, they said that basically they called her a freak,
Oh wow.
and yeah, basically calling her a freak. They made comments about how, liberals' heads are going to explode about her running for governor, and, all that stuff. And so, again,
Mhm.
it was just a conversation I did not want to engage in. I just kept myself out of it and just kept professional and wanted to get them to where they were going as fast as possible.
Now you, because you're openly gay, so were
Yeah.
you? at any point were you terrified? Were you afraid, scared that something was going to happen to you, perhaps? That maybe these guys
Mm.
would be able to tell that you were gay and they could physically, you know, assault you or something?
Yeah, I'm openly gay.
As you were hearing them talking about the transphobia,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm openly gay. I'll show you my little, I don't know if it'll come up here, my little uh,
your rainbow
rainbow
heart.
heart. Yes, and it's displayed in here where riders can see it.
Yeah.
And so, obviously they knew I was gay. And yeah, it does make me feel really uncomfortable. And this isn't the first time that this has happened during a Lyft ride. And it is really uncomfortable. I would say with this ride in particular, I didn't feel physically threatened by them, but
Mhm.
I definitely felt disrespected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what
by the
happened?
comments. So after that, I dropped them off and I did two more rides, both
Mhm.
great riders. One of them wanted to follow me on social media and follow my journey. And then after I completed that last ride, I went to the store, and after I got done shopping, I went back to my car to turn my Lyft app back on, and I got a message from Lyft. And I think I sent you the screenshot of the message.
You
Um,
did. I didn't have a chance to upload it, but
okay.
let us know what did the message say?
Yeah, the message said that I had been temporarily deactivated for a health violation. And when I opened it, said to check my email. It said that I would be deactivated for 6 hours and to check
Mhm.
my email. So I obviously checked my email, and it said that a rider had reported that I was not wearing my face mask.
Wow. So these
And
guys reported you to Lyft saying that you were not wearing a mask when it was them who were the COVID deniers and
yeah,
didn't want to wear a mask. So you were penalized by Lyft. So what did Lyft do?
so they took me off the platform for 6 hours,
Wow.
and said that I needed to review their health policies. And this was all, very frustrating, very disappointing because I've been one I believe in the mask. I think they're so important.
Yeah.
And, obviously, me telling you this story, I enforce the policy. And so here you have these riders that didn't want to follow the policy. And because they didn't want to follow the policy and because I made them follow the policy, they retaliated and made up a story to Lyft saying that I was not following the policy.
Mhm.
And, it was really disappointing and discouraging. And, it was a busy Friday night. I could have been making $30 or $40 per hour. And I was only like halfway through my night. Like I said, this was at about 8 o'clock. And, I could have worked, I usually work until about midnight. So, or a little bit before. So I could have worked another 3 or 4 hours. So I missed, usually Friday nights, you're averaging $30 or $40 an hour. So I missed out on over $100
Yeah.
because, these riders made up an unfortunate story.
Yeah, a lie. So
Yeah.
what do you think of Lyft actually penalizing you like this without an investigation and cutting you off from the app?
Mhm.
And you're missing on obviously on making money because you are a full-time student and you're actually driving for Lyft,
Yeah.
to make some money to stay, in school and everything. So what would you say to Lyft? I mean, in this case, what do they
Mhm.
need to do?
Yeah. What I would say to Lyft is you can do better than this, that
Wow.
there has to be a, better systems in place that protect both the driver and the passenger. you know you have to, in any situation, both sides should be listened to, and obviously this policy is only listening to one side, the rider. So
Right.
basically any rider can report any driver at any time and say, oh, they're not wearing a mask, and Lyft automatically, I believe it's just a computer algorithm, automatically cuts you off for, I think it's 2 to 6 hours. So they
Mhm.
cut me off for 6. And, they really can do better. There has to be a better system put into place. They need to, support their drivers and not just automatically believe that the rider is telling the truth.
Right. So then you were reactivated within 6 hours.
Yeah.
Did you call them directly?
I did. I called their emergency. It's called the critical safety line. I called
Mhm.
to report what happened. I spoke with an agent, and he took down the report. I told him everything that I've told you, and he said that he has documented my report and will take the proper actions. Well, there's a big problem here. He never asked me for the rider's name.
Oh,
And I said, well, how will you take the proper actions if you don't know who I'm talking about? And he backtracked and said, oh yeah, can I get that rider's name?
well, and I think he should be able to know, right? Because if there was a complaint filed against you, they know who filed the complaint. So
Yeah,
based on who the driver is, I'm sure they'll be able to see the report of,
right,
why you
right.
suspended and everything, and who called it in, who the passenger was.
Yeah,
So they probably do already have some sort of tracking. But I know that you also caught COVID, right? So you've had
yeah,
COVID before, which is
yeah,
why you're very careful about wearing a mask. So tell us about
yeah.
your experience with COVID.
Yeah, so I got COVID back in November,
Uh,
and it came on very quickly. And it was just like having the flu, except what the difference between the flu and COVID for me was, um, I immediately lost my sense of smell and my sense of taste.
okay.
And to this day, I have not regained either.
Wow. So
Yeah.
is it 100% gone, or is it just,
I
can you
would
take,
say 90%.
so
Yeah.
90%
It
is
has
gone?
to be either an intense flavored food, like a spicy food,
Uh-huh.
or, a very intense smell. And it's very odd because certain foods that once smelled good or really didn't have much of a smell, like let's say like bananas and apples, they have a
Hmm.
very distinct smell to me now, and really not, it doesn't smell good.
Wow.
Yeah, apples in particular, yeah, they smell horrible to me.
Right. So you obviously don't want to catch COVID again. So
No, and that you can.
yeah.
People say, well, once you have it, you can't get it again. That's not true. You can get it again, even if you do have the antibodies. There is a probability out there that you can catch COVID again.
Mm. Yeah, so you want to be careful. So do you have any other complaints, other experiences that you've had with Lyft? Or is this your first you know, scary situation you've had?
No, I've been a driver for almost 6 years for Uber and Lyft, and I've done a lot of work with Lyft. I was on the driver advisory board for 2020, and
Mhm.
I've organized several drives where we've had over 100 drivers get together, and we've done drives through the Phoenix and Scottsdale areas to raise awareness about the culture at Lyft, about wages, mileage rates and things like that. um, I would say one of the biggest issues is, to me, is discrimination, based on sexuality. I've been discriminated by riders simply because I am openly gay, and I've had homophobic riders in my car. um, and so and what the hardest thing is when I go to report that, whether it be to Lyft or Uber, little to nothing is done. And in
Mm.
some cases, I've never even received a response back.
Do you
And
have do you have the option to, let's say you have a rider who's homophobic and perhaps,
yeah,
maybe gets aggressive, you don't know what's going to happen, but do you have the option to just, pull to the side of the road and say, we're ending the ride and you have to leave the vehicle? I mean, would you be able to do that, or?
yeah, part of the terms of service for both Uber and Lyft is that the driver has the right to end the ride at any time for any
Okay.
reason. Um, in the cases of this, yeah, I have ended the ride. In other cases, situations, I didn't feel safe to end the ride, because I was afraid of my safety. And
Yeah.
again, like I told you, I immediately reported these instances to Lyft, and really never received a reply whatsoever. And that's really, to me, disheartening that, Lyft really says they champion diversity, that they champion inclusion, but they say that, but at the end of the day, what are they doing for their drivers when their drivers are being discriminated against?
So do you have any recommendations? I mean, if you were to talk to somebody, like a regional director at Lyft,
Mhm.
um, what would you recommend that they do, or what needs to change?
I would say, they need to have strict policies. They need to let the riders know that this is absolutely not acceptable. Any sort of discrimination on the platform is, call for immediate, deactivation for a rider or a driver, and
Yeah,
that it's absolutely not tolerated. I think that they need to have better systems in place and investigation tools. So when, when a report comes in that either a rider or a driver, was, discriminated against, that they can properly investigate, and that the each allegation that is made is answered, that the person that makes that allegation receives a response, because there's been
yeah,
at least two different times with Lyft that I didn't even receive a response when I called in or wrote an email in. They need to do a better job of that to ensure that they are replying, that people are heard, because it does happen, and it's very unfortunate. And what makes it an even more unfortunate situation, right, is when you don't even get a response and you don't feel heard by
right.
the company. And yeah, I really do believe Lyft, again, going back to what we said earlier, they can do better.
Yeah. Did you watch that video that went viral on Twitter of there's some girls that were driving, I believe it was on an Uber ride, and they
Oh
got
yeah.
a
Mm.
driver over the mask?
Yeah, yeah, I saw that.
Great.
And that happens, I've
Yeah.
I've had, riders get, crazy over the mask, and it's really unfortunate. It's Uber and Lyft say, you know, they have this policy, right, that people have to wear a mask, and
Yeah.
they expect us drivers to enforce that. But sometimes there can be ramifications to that when we have, uh, COVID deniers, getting in our cars. They we're the ones that are on the front lines, not
Yeah.
corporate. And
Right.
corporate needs to do a better job to make sure that us drivers that are out there on the front lines, that are, you know, uh, driving the company, right, uh, are protected, and heard, and that
Yeah.
the right systems are in place for when something does go bad or go wrong, that the right investigation can take place, and you know both both sides are heard. I really feel that Lyft is swayed into the rider's favor. I've always felt that, in almost 6 years of driving part-time. It always seems that, okay, the writer says something, it has to be true, you
Right.
know,
Right.
and the same thing goes for, I spoke to you about some drivers that have been permanently banned from Uber and Lyft because they had writers say that they were drunk,
And it wasn't
and these
true.
and it wasn't true. And these are people that are personal friends that I know, like myself, that don't drink alcohol. I actually last year I had a guy, he wanted to bring a large knife into my vehicle, like
Oh
this
my
I don't know if you can see my
goodness.
it was like a switchblade, right? Or
Uh-huh.
what would you call, it was just a large knife, I would say maybe like 10 inches long. And yeah, and I
Was it
told
in a
him,
bag? Was he holding it in his hand?
no,
How
it
did
was
you?
on his side. It was
Oh, it was on his
holstered to
side.
his, like he had it attached to his belt. Like
Wow.
if somebody was wearing a gun, had a gun
Yeah.
on them. And Lyft, this was a Lyft ride, and um, Lyft's policy is for both riders and drivers that weapons are not not allowed at all. And
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable having somebody in my vehicle, right?
Behind
With a
you with a 10-inch knife.
yes, I did not feel safe. So I told this guy, and this was at the beginning of COVID. I think this had to have been maybe March of April last year, right after Lyft had, initiated the mask policy.
Yeah.
So this guy, he didn't have a mask, and he had a large knife. And so I told him, I said, I can't take you unless you have a mask, and you get rid of the knife.
Mm.
And after a little back and forth, we agreed that he could. I had a mask for him because in the beginning I had a pack of masks that I bought for riders that didn't have a face mask, because in the beginning nobody had masks in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So we agreed to that he could put the mask or the knife in my trunk.
Oh, there
That
you
way
go.
he didn't have access to it and I felt more comfortable.
Right.
Well, he got in, and right away he says, "Don't you say a word to me the whole trip."
Oh my God, really?
And yes, I had it all on camera. This instance, my camera was working, and I caught everything on camera. So I told him, I said, I've already given you the chance of, you had the knife, you didn't have a mask, I provided the mask, and now you're getting in and saying I'm not allowed to talk to you. I said, you know what? I don't feel comfortable moving forward with this ride. So I said, we were parked in front of a QT gas station.
So did you take off or you had not taken off yet?
He was in, yeah, but we hadn't left the parking lot of the
Okay,
QT
you hadn't
yet.
left the prison. Okay.
And so I said, you know what? I would appreciate it if you got out of my car. You can go to the trunk and get your knife. I just don't feel comfortable taking you at this point.
Yeah.
And right away, he started cussing me out. He got out, and as he went to the trunk, he called me several homophobic names. He called me a faggot, a few other things. I don't remember. This was over a year ago, but definitely it was homophobic.
Wow.
And he went to the front of my vehicle.
As he's holding a knife because he just
Yeah,
got from the trunk. So he's got
he
a
goes
knife in
to,
his hand and he's making homophobic comments.
yes, exactly. He goes to the front of my van and
That's
hits
pretty
my
scary.
car, hits my van, punches it.
Yeah.
And I catch this all on video. And so I, re- I called the police, filed a report, and then I called Lyft, and I ended up getting in contact with the GM at the Lyft hub here in Phoenix. It's actually in Tempe, and I sent him all these videos, and I really never got a response back.
Wow.
Yeah, and here I had it on video, right? I have it on video that this guy is homophobic. He's got a knife. He's not wearing a mask, and still really not much of a response.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Ay, ay, ay. That is pretty
Yeah.
scary. Imagine that
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
And so, that's why I say there has to be better systems put in place to help, ensure the safety of drivers out there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. So I follow you on Instagram and I know that you love to post healthy recipes
Oh,
on
yeah.
food. You're trying to
Yeah, yeah,
encourage
yeah.
people to
Yeah.
eat healthy, which is great. So tell us a little bit more of what you're doing on your Instagram.
Yeah, so I've been on a health journey for about 3 years now. I've lost over 60 pounds
Wow.
combined because I gained a lot of weight a couple years ago. And so, I've been on this health journey, and I really do believe in eating clean and organically. And so, yeah, I'd like to share organic recipes, places that you can go and get clean organic foods.
Mhm.
And I really firmly believe it. I'm studying holistic nutrition right now. That's what I'm going to school for. And so,
Okay.
yeah, and I'm in school to become a health coach. And so health and wellness are, just things that I'm very passionate about. I truly believe in, taking care of your body, and we only get one body, right? And we got to
Yes,
take care.
absolutely.
We got to take care of it. And
Yeah.
little things every day add up, and it really does matter what you put into your body.
Yeah. So where can people follow you on Instagram? What's your handle?
My handle is An Organic Journey.
An Organic Journey.
Yes.
Okay. Are you on Twitter too?
No, not on Twitter. Just
Okay. So
Instagram. Just
follow Tyler on Instagram, and yeah, if you have any questions, I'm sure he'll be happy. Any questions regarding health and foods, he'll healthy eating, he'll answer those for you, I'm sure.
yes, yes, yes.
Shout out to Gary Hirsch, who's watching us right now. Hey, Gary. You can follow me on, I'm everywhere on as live on the chat. So you can follow me on YouTube, live on the chat. You can follow me on Twitter, live on the chat, everywhere as live on the chat. And if you'd like to support independent media like my show, I'm live on the chat on Cash App, and you can send some money there. Well, thank you so much, Tyler, for joining me today on the
Thanks for
chat.
having me. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me, and I'm glad we could have this conversation. Really, I think it's important.
it's very important, yes, because there's a lot of drivers out there that are experiencing, what you're experiencing, whether it's homophobia or, you have some COVID deniers
Yes.
getting in your vehicle that don't want to wear a mask, putting people in danger. So it's definitely important. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
And
you.
we will talk again soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.